Hello, welcome to Hedgehog Naval Academy. Today we're going to continue our look into some of the other Black Seas rules. And today we're going to cover what I call kind of advanced seamanship topics. Okay, we're going to cover three separate rules. Damaged ships, entanglement, and rules of engagement. Okay, three very small rules, simple rules, but something that can have a profound effect on the game, or at least the scenario. So let's dive into them. We'll go ahead and start with rules of engagement, and then work our way up. All right, rules of engagement. Well, in real life, in real historical settings here, there were conventions of war, and I don't know if it's so much a matter of honor. I'm not quite sure what really was, the driver behind it. But essentially, you were not supposed to engage in an enemy ship that was essentially of a lower rating than you. So, on this, here I've got a brig, which is an unrated ship, a frigate, 5th rate, and a 3rd rate. Okay, so in a normal, everyday engagement, when two sides would come together, any of the ships of the line, the highest, larger rates, the 3rd rates, the 1st rates, whatever, they would not fire on what we'll call a smaller ship, unless that smaller ship first fired on them. So that 3rd rate would not be fired on by a 1st rate unless that 3rd rate first fired on that 1st rate. This frigate will not fire at the brig until the brig fires at it. And the 3rd rate won't fire at the frigate or brig until either of them fire back. Okay, that's the standard convention. So to represent that in the system here, the Black Seas, essentially the rule is you cannot fire at a smaller ship unless you first pass the skill test. So it's not about rates here, it's about size. So a large ship, medium ship, small ship is how you determine this. So every time a larger ship wants to fire at a smaller ship, it has to take pass a skill test, even if it's previously passed one for that purpose. So if my frigate wants to fire at that brig, if that brig hasn't fired at me yet, that frigate has to make a skill test. If it makes it, it can fire. And the next turn, if it wants to fire and the brig hasn't fired back, it has to roll that skill test, and still, even if it fired last turn, if it fails the skill test, it can't fire this turn. Okay, now in this case, this rule, all large and extra large ships are considered the same size. So 1st rates through 3rd rates will all fire at each other without any problems at all. So that's essentially how the rule works. Yeah. So remember, unless that smaller ship fires at you first, and you're the larger ship, you cannot fire at it unless you pass a skill test. But as soon as that smaller ship fires at you, you don't need to worry about skill tests. You can blaze away. All right, so that's rules of engagement. All right, so let's talk entangle really quick. It's a very simple rule, but it has profound impacts on the game. So let's just look at these couple ships here. We're going to focus on these three. Again, just to give size illustrations here, because the way entangle rules, if you choose to use the rule, you're going to add some complexity to the game, and this is one of the actual reasons why I wanted to break down these Academy videos into smaller lessons with certain rules being added in later to make it simple, because I've seen a lot of bat reps where entangle's used right out of the gate, and it makes things complicated, sometimes hard to understand. So let's look at entangle, and it's real simple. This is not not really a collision. Collision is when your hull contacts hull. Well, entangle, there's also a risk that your ships get too close and the rigging actually entangles with each other. Okay. Now, the way it's represented in the game is
at the end of each of your movement steps, which means after your turn is completed. So let's just use this brig as an example. Okay, so here this brig is not going to collide, but if I move him forward 5, I'm going to end up within an inch of that ship. Now, even if I were to turn away, now I need to do the measurement to see if I'm within an inch. Now I'm not. So see, that's why you want to make sure you check it after you finish your last turn. But if at any point at the end of any of your movement steps, you end up within 1 inch of the opponent's hull, you must make an entangle check. The problem is with this skill test, though you still get the +2 modifier to the skill test roll, if either of the ships fails, they're both entangled. Unlike evade, where either of them has to pass and you evade. Here, if either fails, you're entangled. And when you're entangled, you're considered to be grappled as far as boarding actions go. However, now, and that can happen even if you're at full sail. So I'm not recommending you entangle in order to grapple a full sail ship, but that is an effect that can happen. However, here's the worst part about entanglement. The activated ship, whenever they're entangled, they can attempt to unentangle. However, they're not just grappled; they're entangled. So they're actually a -1 penalty to disengage. So that means a regular crew can only disengage or unentangle on a 6+. That can be vicious. That can really mess up the game. Trying to get out of that situation. So remember, it's +2 to avoid the skill test to avoid, but it's -1 to unentangle or disengage. All right, so let's take a look at the next rule. All right. So there's another advanced rule that you may want to use, and I think it actually adds some very realistic flavor to the game, and it's called damaged ships. The reality is, when you're fighting in the high seas like this, in these ships, the damage that happens to your structure is, while it's doing that, it's killing off men, and it's also dislodging cannons and dislodging rigging and masts and things. So the effectiveness of the ship dwindles as it takes more damage. So to reflect that, it's a very simple rule. If the ship falls below half of its hull points, so it has to be below, not equal to, half, there are a couple things that happen. The first is it can no longer go full sails. You can go battle and light sails and anchored only. The other thing is you cut each of its gun positions in half, rounded up. So let's cover the effects on each of these ship types. So for a brig, once you reached 9 health, so that's 1 below half, you're going to fire only 1 heavy cannon out of a broadside, and you can't go full sail. So again, can't go full sail for all these. But for a frigate, 5th rate, once you reach 17 points, again 1 less than half, you're going to fire 1 heavy cannon, 1 light cannon, and 1 carronade. Because again, you reduce the broadsides by half, round up, and so the front bow chaser, you still have 1 light cannon. On the 3rd rate here, the large 3rd rate, you're going to, once you reach 36 essentially, because here half of 74 is 37. So 1 less than that is 36. So 36 points and less, you're going to be firing at 2 heavy, 1 light, and 1 cannonade on the broadside, 1 light stern chaser, and 1 heavy bow chaser. Now, as soon as you repair your ship to the point where it's at or above that halfway mark, the damage goes away. The reduced cannon effect goes away, and so does the reduced sail speed go away. So you actually have incentive now to repair your ship if you add this damaged ships rule in, because a repair can get you back up to fully functioning. I think it's a very good thing, very realistic approach to the game as far as game mechanic versus what they're trying to simulate in real life. So that's the damaged ships effect. Now notice that when you incorporate
the mast damage that already prevents you from going to full sail because you've taken a mast hit, this damaged ship won't have any effect on that. No matter what even if you repair your ship above the half, you still will. The mast hit cannot be repaired. So you will always not be able to be at full sail. So a simple change there. So those are some simple rules there. Rules of engagement, entanglement, and damaged ships, just to kind of add some flavor and variety to your Black Seas games. Again, these are optional rules, or not optional, they're advanced rules. So agree ahead of time with your player to use them. And it will enhance, I personally think it'll enhance your Black Seas game. Alright, hope you enjoyed that video. We'll share, like, subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.